What's up guys, this is Theo from Final Concepts, and today we are going to be looking at moving text and objects in Adobe Photoshop. So let's just create a new file. I'm going to leave my settings as these. Hit OK. Then I'll bring up my timeline by double clicking timeline right here. If you don't have it at the bottom, you could always go to window, then you check timeline. Okay, so the first thing we are going to do, I do not want to hide my. So the first thing we are going to do is click on create video timeline, and this is going to give us a 5 seconds timeline over here. Now today I'm going to be showing you how to move objects in Adobe Photoshop. So let's just create a new layer, and I'm just going to paint over it like so. Let me just reduce the size so that you could actually see that it's not an entire background, it's just here. I'm going to duplicate this because I'll be talking about the different options you get. Convert to smart object. Then I'm going to, so let me just name this rasterized layer. Then I will name this smart object. Object. I hate it when I do not spell correctly. Okay, and the third one, I'm just going to be creating a shape, so I'll just click and drag. No, I don't want. Anyway, let me just click and drag from this portion, and we have a shape right here. So I'll name this shape. Okay, now to start editing or creating our video, we have these few options you have to take notice of. For a rasterized layer, if you click on this arrow right here, you have 3 options you could use. You have the position, you have the opacity, you have the style. Now for a smart object, which is this layer, you have transform, opacity, and style. Now for a shape, we have about 5. Have position, opacity, style, vector mask, position, and vector mask enable. Now I'm going to be talking about the position first because we are going to be moving objects. So let me just hide these two. Now with my rasterized layer selected, if I click on this arrow right here, then the first thing I'm going to do is enable keyframe animation by hitting on this clock icon right here. So we have our first diamond or keyframe created at this portion. Now if I move my timeline over to probably 1 second, I could change the position of this layer because it's positioned. So I'll just change the position to this portion. Now you notice that the moment I do that, this new keyframe is popping up, so it automatically creates a new keyframe for us. So what I can do is, if I do not want it to create a keyframe for me, I could just delete this app and create the keyframe myself by hitting this icon right here. So this will add a new keyframe over to this portion. Now if I move my object or my layer towards this side, this thing will update itself towards the new position of my layer right here. So now if I move towards this portion, you notice that it has already updated itself. Now usually if you don't know what to do this, you could just move this over to this portion, and it's automatically going to create it for you. So you could just have your transition over this portion. Now at this portion, I could just move over to probably 2 seconds, then I'll drag it away from the screen, so probably at this portion. So you notice that once I send my timeline backwards, It's here, it's there, it's going up, it's coming down, then it vanishes from the screen. So that's it for rasterize layer and the position. For opacity, basically I'll talk about that when we get to shape. Style 2, I could you know what, let me just talk about it right now. So for opacity, we could just start a new keyframe. Now my opacity is set to 100. I could reduce it to probably 0. Then I'll move my mouse cursor to probably here, 20 frames. So I'll just change the opacity to 100. Now it's 100. So from 0 frames to 20 frames, the image or the layer comes to life. Now if I move over to this portion, probably 2 seconds, I could reduce the opacity to 0 again. So you notice that it's off, then it just comes on at this position, then it starts to fade off again. So basically that's it for opacity. For the style, I'm going to start a keyframe. For the style, notice that from this end up to this end, there's no style on it. So when we get to this portion, I could just go to effect and just add a stroke to it. So I'm going to set the stroke to about 15 pixel and set the color to black. Hit OK. Now you notice that the moment the image starts coming in, the stroke also comes in. So to get a better understanding, let me just delete this right here. So you notice that there's no stroke on the image. Just use my zoom tool. There's no stroke on the image. Now the moment we move, the stroke starts to appear over our image. Now if I move over to this portion, I could create a new keyframe, then change the effects, or I could add a drop shadow to it. Now I'm just going to set it as 100% so that we could see what we're actually doing. Let me just reduce the size. So hit OK. Now you notice that from 0, when you move up to 20 frames, the stroke comes in. Then the moment we move away, the drop shadows also come in over this portion. So you have drop shadow around this area. So basically that's it for rasterize layers. Let me just hide this up. Now let's move to smart objects. For smart objects, the moment you click on this arrow right here, you have transform, opacity and style. I'm going to be talking about just transform. So on our first layer, we have I could use the transform, set it, then move over to just 1 second. Then with my move tool, I could alter the shape of this smart object. I could make it bigger. Let me just make it bigger. So I hit OK. Now notice when we move our timeline, notice that this shape changes. Now at this point, I could also move over to 2 seconds, create a new keyframe. Then I'm going to make it thinner and probably longer as well. So if we move over, notice that it becomes bigger, then it becomes smaller. So basically that's it for smart objects. Now for shapes, let me hide these two. For shapes, we have a few other options, but I'm just going to be talking about, basically I've covered that. So we have style, we have vector position, where you could create a vector mask over some particular portion. So let me just bring this one up. Let me just create a vector position mask. So at this portion, you know what, I'll talk about this in the next episode. My time is up, so I'll see you guys in the next one.